A Bahamian who could not afford to buy the whole property at $5 million may be able to afford a $5,000 investment. Tokenization makes real estate more marketable, and it opens up Bahamian real estate to a wider pool of both local and international investors. I'm a real estate agent based here in the Bahamas with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Since I got involved with the crypto chicks in Canada in around 2015, I studied blockchain as it relates to crypto.
After the whole FTX thing, some people have been kind of hands-off at the Bahamas when it comes to anything digital assets, but there's still a lot of opportunity down there, like a lot of untapped.
It's kind of frustrating that we're not involved more. It's just a great way to promote the Bahamas. Take that $5 million Cable Beach property and you tokenize it, fractionalize it basically into 1,000 digital shares, and each share is priced at 5,000. We're well into the trillions of the amount of real world assets that will be tokenized. There's tax consideration. There's our proximity to Miami and North America. But what it boils down to is lifestyle.
But what are some of the risks? Before we get into the show, let me ask you something. If you're interested in money, technology, AI, and digital opportunities for Bahamians, why are you still watching from the sideline? Follow CryptoNoobz, subscribe to the channel, and join our community of curious-minded people who want to know how the world is changing and how they can benefit from it. Without further ado, let's get into the show.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the CryptoNoobz podcast, where we talk about money, tech, and opportunities for Bahamians in the digital economy. I'm your host, Nelson Ricardo, and I'm joined here with my co-host,
Lamont Astwood, aka Lambo.242.
And on this episode, we are talking about something that's pretty interesting, tokenization in the Bahamas and how it relates to real estate and investments. And joined with us today, we have Miss Rosalyn Brown, who is going to be educating us about how is it that you could actually have tokenized real estate. How are you doing, Rosalyn?
Good, I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
So, Rosalyn, it's so great to have you. And yeah, we're so ready to learn more about, tokenized real estate and like, what even is that? We understand that you are a luxury real estate investor. And, just let our audience know a little bit more about yourself. Like, who are you? What is your connection to the Bahamas? And what is it that you do?
Okay, sure. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a real estate agent based here in the Bahamas with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And I try and focus more on the luxury side of it and working with developers, which is why I'm so interested in tokenization and trying to educate developers on using tokenization. My father is Bahamian, and every year when we were young, I spent Christmas in the Bahamas. So the islands have always felt like home to me. Been here now for over 30 years. After graduating, I moved here permanently and built my career in private banking and offshore financial services. My heritage gives me a good understanding of the local market, the culture, and the unique lifestyle that the Bahamas has to offer.
Awesome. And, it's so great to hear that you're a Bahamian who is actually working inside of this space. Could you just allow us to understand, like, being a Bahamian influence when it comes to tokenization and real estate? Like, how does that work and what is that even?
Sure. Well, it's all about bringing foreign direct investment into the Bahamas, which is, one of the goals of the government, actually. They have certain acts like the Hotel Encouragement Act that, again, encourage people and foreigners to invest in the Bahamas. And so with my background in private banking, I've always worked with wealthier clients, and they value the stability, the discretion, and the long-term relationships that also apply to real estate. So private banking is very similar to real estate in that regard. And working with high net worth individuals, I can understand their needs and what makes them feel comfortable and confident doing business in the Bahamas. So it's all about trying to make it more efficient. We have had some issues in the past with foreigners investing in real estate because of the title issue that we have. And it's made it a little bit difficult to bring in the foreigners that we want to bring in. But tokenization is a way that we can help that and facilitate better these people through cross-border services. As you know, we have a very great tax regime, and through residency and asset protection, we can bring those foreigners in to invest in the Bahamas.
Awesome.
Right.
So first and foremost, I think our audience needs to understand, right? What is tokenization and what is the role that it plays in real estate?
Right. So essentially, tokenization makes real estate more marketable, and it opens up Bahamian real estate to a wider pool of both local and international investors. So I like to say that it's kind of like the democratization of the market, because it transforms luxury real estate from an exclusive asset into an accessible investment opportunity for a much broader audience. So I'll give you an example, and this is quite real life because there's a sixplex investment property for sale on Cable Beach. It is listed for around $5 million with closing costs. So how this would work for the Bahamian investors is that you take that $5 million Cable Beach property and you tokenize it, fractionalize it basically, into 1,000 digital shares. And each share is priced at 5,000. So a Bahamian who could not afford to buy the whole property at 5 million may be able to afford a $5,000 investment. So their ownership is recorded on a blockchain, and each token is represented on the chain. So this gives a fractional ownership interest in a Bahamian legal entity because it's going to be an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, that holds the property's deed. And so those token holders have access to their share of rental income. They can vote on any property decisions, and they can also participate in any price increase in the property should they all decide to sell in the future. So it's just a way for, as I mentioned, a broader audience to participate in a real estate venture.
I like it. So basically, if you are a Bahamian and you want to actually invest in real estate and maybe the entire real estate is out of your price range,
Mm-hmm.
they fractionalize it where it's almost like owning a piece of stock, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
where instead of buying like the entire thing, I could just buy $5,000 worth of it. And whatever income comes from this investment property, I would get a, a portion that reflects how much I invested in it.
Sure. And as I mentioned, a big part of that is that when and if the property sells, obviously it's going to provide income in the meantime, but it should appreciate in property, especially if it's on Cable Beach. And then they can participate in that appreciation as well.
Makes sense. I like that. So, Rosalyn, from your experience working in private banking and offshore financial services for 25 years, what lessons or what do you say motivated you to really go from that to looking into luxury real estate and digitization of real assets, if you will?
Sure. Well, I must admit that when I made the transition from private banking to real estate, it was more because I wanted to sort of work less, sort of drift into eventually retirement. But actually, I'm working longer hours than I was in private banking. The only difference is I can pick my own hours now.
All right, good.
And I really enjoy it because I think if I had just transitioned from private banking into selling real estate, I wouldn't have been as motivated as I am now to use the blockchain technology and to use property technology. And I mentioned that this is all since I got involved with the crypto chicks in Canada in around 2015. I studied blockchain as it relates to crypto. And now I see that there's just such an opportunity to incorporate the blockchain technology in real estate. So it's, really just fantastic that I'm doing this now and that I'm able to do this. And it's very similar to the clients that I had to deal with in private banking because it's basically all based on trust and transparency. And with a blockchain, it's immutable. You can't change it. It's transparent.
Yeah.
And that again it's reflected in the way the blockchain works. And that's, of course, very important when you're talking to a client in private banking. There's the cross-border tax advantages as well that we can incorporate into real estate because, as you know, if a foreigner buys a property worth about 1.5 million, they can get permanent residency. So again, you have the people who want to go offshore for monetary and tax reasons tying in with real estate because they have to get permanent residency. And the way to get that is by buying real estate here. And then we also have asset protection, which again, the blockchain enhances.
I got you. Yeah, it is going from one intense industry to another intense industry, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But you're dealing with basically the same clients and basically for the same reasons.
I just want to tell you once again, congratulations at being a speaker at the Blockchain Futurist Conference that's coming up. So definitely we're looking forward to, seeing you there. So we understand. So you're a speaker at the Blockchain Future Conference, Future Prop Tech Miami,
Right.
and you'll also be participating with ETH Women.
Yeah, so that stands for Ethereum Women. So I was on a panel last year in November when Blockchain Futurist was in Hollywood, Florida. And then this year, right after I went to Consensus in Miami Beach, they had Future Prop Tech, and I was on a panel there as well. So now I'm going to be back with Blockchain Futurist next week, 2 weeks' time, this time in Toronto, but again, I'm on a panel. And that panel, those side sort of panels are put on by ETH Women, which stands for Ethereum Women. And it's just a great way to promote the Bahamas because we were talking about this earlier. BVI is always represented. Cayman is always represented. At Consensus, we had the Prime Minister from Bermuda who gave an amazing talk about the progress that they've made with their DARE-like legislation. And we actually have people from the Bahamas assisting them with their legislation because they actually wrote part of the DARE legislation here. So the Bahamas has played a very central role, but I think we need to be more on the world stage. A lot of our clients, not only in financial services, but in real estate, are coming from Canada, the northeastern United States, for tax reasons, basically. And we need to go where they are and convince them that the Bahamas is a great place to do business.
Yeah, I think, just as you said, the Bahamas needs to be a part of those conversations about global tokenization, real world assets, and what's not. Because, we are a tourism based country, and initially we were on this really great track of, becoming like the world's top, crypto country. Now, definitely some things happened and we segued, but do you think like now is the time for us to like get back into it?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, like yesterday was the time. It's real world assets are becoming the largest tokenization projects right now. And I forget the number, but we're well into the trillions of the amount of real world assets that will be tokenized. And real estate is, of course, one of the main components of real world assets. You have countries like Singapore, Dubai, tokenizing a lot of real estate projects. And, we've got a kind of an opportunity now because people are leaving Dubai So if we can offer them the same type of property technology that they're used to, that would greatly enhance their coming to the Bahamas. And I try and focus on developers as well, because, developers are always trying to raise cash.
Hmm.
And they're using traditional methods. And I think if they would look at tokenization as a way to raise cash, to raise capital so they can proceed with their developments, that it would greatly, as I said, enhance those efforts.
Yeah, that leads me into this. In your opinion, what are ways that developers can attract capital to the Bahamian real estate market using tokenization, but at the same time ensuring that Bahamians can take part? Because I'm all for tokenization of assets, I'm all for it. But I just want to make sure it's not to the point where Bahamians can't take part. Because, like, for example, if you
Yeah.
look at our stock market, we only have about 20 listed companies or so. It's not a lot of opportunities, and Bahamians they're looking for opportunities to invest. So, what do you think are ways that, whilst attracting capital, also ensuring that is also opportunity for locals?
Right. Well, foreign developers and Bahamian developers can actually attract both local and international capital in a number of ways. One is a hybrid ownership model, and that means that the developer will structure the tokenized offering and set aside a portion of those tokens exclusively for Bahamian residents. They could do it potentially at a discounted rate or maybe with priority access. And this ensures that the locals can participate in the investment and share in the returns before the international investors are invited in. Developers can also build in like mandatory, what we call community impact provisions into the tokenization structure. This is like dedicating a percentage of the rental income, for instance, or the sales proceeds of local housing funds into infrastructure improvements, not just for the development itself, but for the community. And this could also include job creation programs because, as you know, when they're building a development, they're going to need workers. And that can ensure that the foreign capital coming in would benefit the broader community and not just the foreign investors.
Sure, yeah, sure, I like that. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I agree.
As Bahamians, we definitely have to do things where the Bahamas also could really benefit from basically these new updated technologies.
Mhm.
We love bringing in investors, and I think that's very important for the Bahamas. In fact, we're made for it. But at
Mhm.
the same time, it's like we definitely have to make sure that our people are also benefiting from it. We just had a great conversation the last time with Nelson Lopez, and he was explaining how in El Salvador, like basically everything that includes crypto, especially Bitcoin, basically benefits the country as a whole. So
Mhm.
definitely looking for win-win conversations.
Yeah, this is why, as we mentioned before, I go to Consensus. I go to these, blockchain futurists. I go to Future Prop. I do a lot of traveling aside from the conferences that I attend because those are the people who have made a lot of money in crypto and they understand how blockchain works. And it's all about getting them into the Bahamas for investment because it really does benefit us all. And that's why the government has the Hotel Encouragement Act. That's why they have the DARE legislation, to get these people here because foreign direct investment really benefits us all.
So I imagine that, so just as you said, right, foreign direct investment benefits us all. So definitely you'll be working with a lot of high net worth individuals and companies and institutions, right? So what would be the benefit of them investing in a tokenized Bahamian home resort or maybe a commercial development property? Like, what would make a tokenized Bahamian property more attractive than purchasing a traditional one?
Well, I think the main reason is that the blockchain is just such a better way to conduct business. You've got increased liquidity. because you trade on the blockchain, basically. You've got lower barriers to entry. We have to still do KYC, of course, but it's easier to get onto the blockchain than to, say, go to a broker and sign up for a share of a real estate fund, for instance. So it allows also investors to buy and sell fractional ownership, which is easy on the secondary markets, without the time and legal costs of a traditional sale. So again, it offers a much lower entry point. It enables portfolio diversification across multiple properties as well, because you're not locking up all of your assets or all of your capital in a single asset. You can decide that you want to have pieces of different properties or different developments. And again, it comes down to being able to buy a fraction of the asset rather than having to go and buy the whole asset.
So I just want to understand this, and this one is for both you and Lamont, right? So would it look better going to a bank if I want to get, say, equity or something like that? If I have like a portfolio of all these various properties, because at least what I'm understanding is how it kind of comes together, right? So because it's fractionalized and it's tokenized, I could now say I have $5,000 in a property in Cable Beach,
Sure.
another 5,000 in property in, say, Fort Charlotte, another 5,000 somewhere inside Old Fort Big, right? So now I could come with this portfolio to say I have all these properties or what's not. I would like to borrow this amount of money or what's not. Like, could that be beneficial?
Yeah, well, the banks are very tricky because the thing is, the value of the token is going to change. Like, it could be a $5,000 token, but on the market, on the secondary market on the blockchain, it might be trading at 6,000. Now, what value is the bank going to assign that token? And I would think it'd be more like the appraised value, because that's what they do for traditional home financing. They don't really take what it could sell for on the market. The demand for that house, for instance, they're going to take the appraised value of the house. So I think the traditional banks are a little bit slow to catch up on this property technology. And, it's very hard to get a loan these days anyway.
Yeah.
So it might be more difficult than, say, maybe trying to raise funds on the blockchain yourself, and instead of using the traditional finance method. But again, that token is going to increase in value, and that might be something that the banks don't acknowledge.
Yeah, that could be another thing. Market valuation, but a benefit of it would probably be like the liquidity aspect. Because
definitely. Yeah, the secondary market for real estate tokens is not as liquid as, say, some of these other coins. But there are always people who want to get in, especially once it gets going and they see how profitable it is and they like the fact that they can own. And they're going to be getting some, if it's a rental property, they're going to be getting some rental income as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So that would help. But definitely you've got increased liquidity and a lower barrier to entry when you're dealing with real estate on the blockchain.
Yeah, that's for sure. So as we get into that, let's talk about like what property laws or like banking laws will have to be in place for tokenization of real estate to work in the Bahamas. Because just for context, I just came from a conference in Belize, and it was basically about pensions, supervision, and regulation. And one of the presenters, she spoke of tokenization of real world assets, the possibility of them included in pensions.
Right.
There was, I think I did ask a question relating to like the maximum threshold, because, the governments might have to put a cap on how much of the portfolio could actually hold tokenized real estate, because most of pensions usually is in the form of government security, is stuff very low risk assets. So how would you think like property laws or like local laws and regulations would go about that?
Well, I think using your scenario, I would think that real estate being one of the best pieces of collateral that you can have would not be the value of that token would not fluctuate as much, maybe even as much as government bonds, because who knows how high the debt is going to go. I think a lot of people are getting into real world assets because they're worried about the banking system. They're worried about the debt, not only in the US, but in Canada and maybe their home country. So with regards to the Bahamas, we have a traditional framework. We have a well-established financial services sector, and that's regulated by the central bank. It's regulated by the Securities Commission. And these regulations kind of provide the rails for integrating digital assets into the traditional economy. And those are the kind of organizations that also support our financial services industry. So we've already got that kind of tradition. And then one of the key investor protections that we have is the ability for tokenized assets to be traded in a secure and compliant environment, and because companies are regulated under the DARE Act. And they also highlight the importance of KYC and AML procedures. And that's very important. We have to have a good regulatory body. We have to do our KYC because we don't want any scammers, to sort of give the Bahamas a bad name. And also the Bahamas has created vehicles like the Smart Fund, which is known for holding various assets. And those can be utilized in structures involving tokenized real estate as well. And you combine that with our favorable tax regime, and it really makes it a good environment for international investment.
Sure. I like that. Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm still learning more about the real estate space, but my question now would be, how would Bahamian developers actually use tokenization to attract international capital while ensuring that local residents are not priced out or left, watching foreign investors own an increasing share of the country? Because once again, we are very much an investment kind of country, lots of opportunities here for investors. But, how could Bahamian developers use tokenization to attract that kind of capital and then, ensure that local residents are not kept out of the conversation?
Sure. Well, for international investors, we really have to put forward our lifestyle. I mean, essentially what it boils down to, people moving to the Bahamas, there's tax consideration, there's our proximity to Miami and North America, but what it boils down to is lifestyle. And we offer an amazing lifestyle here in the Bahamas. So going to these conferences, meeting these people who are high net worth, whether it's because of crypto or something else, these people understand blockchain. So it's not only showing them that we have an amazing lifestyle, but showing them that we can use property technology and that we can do it the same way that they do it in Dubai, for instance. And we can attract people that way. They want to know that not only are they going to have an amazing lifestyle here, but that their investment is going to be safe. And a lot of that also boils down to trying to make the process to purchase smoother. Right now, we're sort of not doing that with, an average of 6-month closings. That's got to be speeded up, but that can be speeded up on the blockchain. So it would offer that kind of liquidity and efficiency that these foreign investors are looking for and that they're used to in their home countries. And that's great to attract the international capital. But as I mentioned before, maybe we should also, or the government should also encourage developers to set up that hybrid ownership model where they have set aside certain tokens exclusively for Bahamian residents. And also to educate Bahamians on, what it is they're buying, how it is they're buying it, how it's going to be a smoother transaction. And again, instead of having to go to the bank for a huge sum of money to buy a whole house, they can still participate with a fraction of that.
All right.
Lots of opportunity inside that. Lots of opportunities.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the government definitely have to be involved to make it work. I think it have to be synergy because you need regulation to protect investors whilst at the same time allowing or like creating like almost like a sandbox out. Just letting people, do what they do. But one thing, regulation clarity is very important. Let me ask you this. What type of real estate projects do you think would be best suited for tokenization? Would it be like rental properties as far as like homes, like apartment complexes, duplexes, triplexes, or do you think like commercial spaces like plazas or stuff like that? Because just from personal experience, I have bought real estate tokens before. And I remember like on the site I use, it's called Lofty, I remember. We would get like emails like, oh, the tenant didn't pay this or this. Yeah, we would got like, all right, this broke, so this happened. And it almost felt like I was almost like a landlord in a weird way because it's like,
but that's not something people want to get involved in. They just want to, participate in the rental income. And they also want to be able to make decisions as a group. They want to be part of that decision-making process, but they don't want to have to call the plumber if someone has a leak type of thing. So for that reason, I would say that you've got to be sure that your income producing properties are just that. If you make an investment through the regular channels and it's not a good investment, it's the same as if you buy a token and a property and it's not a good investment. But when it comes to the type of Bahamian real estate projects that are best suited for tokenization, definitely on top of that list is the income producing properties. And of course, beachfront condos are the best. Resort villas, commercial developments with a clear rental yield potential, like the sixplex on Cable Beach that I mentioned. Also, development projects that are in the pre-construction phase, because that's when the developers need that early stage capital. And tokenization is the best way to, bring in that capital. Luxury vacation homes can also be fractionalized. If it's a big property that may be used as a corporation for corporate perks, or even a group of high net worth individuals that want to use the property from time to time, that can also work. That's a good candidate for tokenization. And you can also have mixed use developments with multiple revenue streams. Retail that you mentioned, a plaza, for instance, residential hotel. You can also tokenize hotels to act similar to a timeshare. So instead of your 1 week or your 2 weeks, you have one token or two tokens. And it's just easy. Timeshares are traditionally very hard to deal with if you want to sell or if you want to trade. But all you have to do is, have that token on the blockchain and it's easy to sell or trade. So those are the type of properties that would do best. And I'm particularly interested and enthusiastic about the developers because I just think it's an amazing way to raise that early seeds or early stage capital.
Definitely. So like just fine. Anything would be almost profitable if you're going around the normal methods. Just apply the same tools and criteria to it.
Exactly. I mean, you wouldn't want to do a single family home unless, of course, you're going to tokenize it with all your relatives, which I can't imagine that working. But these income producing properties, they're going to give you some kind of yield, but also you can participate in the appreciation of the complex. But it's got to be managed. You don't want to get a call in the middle of the night that, the toilet's not flushing type of thing.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And that's why, generally speaking, the more, for lack of a better word, the more luxurious the property is, the less you're going to have to deal with that because it's probably been maintained. But again, if you've got a token, you can participate in the decision making for the property.
Yeah, that was actually a big part of what was on Lofty. Like they would actually tell us like, okay, token holders have been voting during this period on certain things. So that was a part that a lot of people actually would prefer to take part in.
Sure.
Now, definitely tokenization, I would honestly say you could definitely tell you that you're really great at sales because definitely you sold it, allowing a lot more access to real estate, right?
Yes. I mean, that's the goal, right? Sell more real estate or rent it or buy it. But yeah, I mean, it's, as I mentioned, it's all about foreign direct investment. Definitely tourism is the Bahamas' number one source of GDP, but we've got to get more investors here. We've got to make it easier for them to be here. And tokenization does that. And blockchain technology is the future, no matter how you look at it, mostly for real world assets. Like, the big firm, JP Morgan, they're all getting involved with it. So it is the future. And yeah, back to your question, we really need to do things like yesterday and start making it. We have all the legislation. We have the financial services background. We just need to have it get started, do a couple developments and then talk about these developments at conferences like Blockchain Futurist and Consensus and let people know that, we're on the map as far as digital technology is concerned.
I wholeheartedly agree. Sometimes it could be a little bit, it could take us some time to really like get the move on, but
Mhm.
I will defend the Bahamas to saying that, we were kind of playing it on defense for a little while because of some past situations.
Yeah.
But I think that that time is over now and definitely we need to shift gears. But
Mhm.
going back to tokenization, we're hearing a lot of great things about tokenization. But what are some of the risks, like, fees, valuation, smart contracts? Like, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, I think the main risk that investors, token holders might face, and this is true with any investment, is that sometimes the token prices do not reflect the underlying property value. And I guess this is more so for property than for a share, for instance, where you can just see the company's gross income, their net cost type of thing. Because for property, the valuations can be manipulated or they can be old, and having manual appraisals can be slow and costly. So maybe AI can help us with that in the future. I think a lot of appraisers are using AI now. But yeah, it's really trying to get the underlying value of the property aligned with the token prices. And it happens, but it can be a little bit slow. And then another risk might be the transaction costs. You have to be very clear what the platform fees, what the blockchain gas fees, what the legal expenses, and what the compliance costs are going to be. Because all of these can accumulate quickly and they can erode the return for smaller investments. One thing I want to mention as well is that custody of the tokenized assets can be complex. Traditional custodians may not want to or be able to manage the private keys, and self-custody actually carries its own risk as well. So you have to be sure that if you're using a company, and we have a few licensed companies now, I think we have 40, and a lot of them are very, very good. So you have to choose the right company that is going to custody your tokenized assets if you're not going to use a private key or a private wallet. So those issues, and then you also have that the resale or the secondary market cannot be as liquid as other assets because tokenized properties don't change hands very often, and there's going to be not a lot of trading volume. So the secondary market not being as dynamic as other assets, for instance, might be an issue.
Okay.
Right. Rosalyn, let me ask you this question.
Mhm.
Will tokenization help Bahamians own a greater share of the Bahamas, or is it susceptible to foreign investors coming and basically taking advantage of that opportunity? And to basically make that a reality for us, what can we do now as a country or even as citizens just watching this? What message we like to send out there now to the Bahamas so we could take advantage of this opportunity?
Sure. Well, I think it's going to take maybe some legislation. Maybe the government has to step in and say, yes, we're going to have a hybrid type of token where the hybrid ownership model that I mentioned before, where some offerings are set aside exclusively for Bahamian residents. But when you think of it now, that doesn't really happen in real life now either, because, it's not like you have people saying, we need to do something. There's not enough Bahamians in Old Fort, or there's not enough Bahamians in Albany or Lifer Key. One thing that tokenization does do is allow that fractional ownership so as I mentioned, instead of having to buy the whole sixplex, they can participate with $5,000. So tokenization definitely makes it more of a level playing field, but maybe the government is going to have to step in and say we need more hybrid ownership models.
Definitely. So if anyone from our government is watching, anyone's in charge of legislation, that is your cue. That is your cue.
Yeah.
And make sure to give us credit for it. Sure to give Rosalyn and CryptoNoobz credit.
Yes.
Right?
Well, Rosalyn, first and foremost, we just like to thank you for all the wonderful insights that you've given to us and our audience. We definitely learned a lot about tokenization as it relates to real estate, and definitely how it actually is working in the Bahamas and how it could actually benefit the Bahamas. So if someone wanted to contact you, how would they best reach you?
Sure. As I mentioned, I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Bahamas. You can look on our webpage and I'm listed there. I also do a lot of articles on LinkedIn. Rosalyn Brown, if anyone wants to connect with me, that'd be great. I'm always writing articles on not only real estate based, but tokenization of real world assets. And so that's the best way. I'm on WhatsApp, and again, my cell number is listed on the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Bahamas website. So you can reach me there, and my email address. And anyone who wants to contact me, it would be great. I'm trying to encourage more people to attend the Blockchain Futurist. The one in Canada is a little bit further away, but Hollywood is very close. The Hard Rock Hotel, very close to the Fort Lauderdale Airport. So, and if you get your ticket early, this is the way Blockchain Futurist works is, when they first start advertising the tickets, they're like $50. Right now, that's for general admission. Right now, the general admission are selling for $680. So like every week they go up.
Yeah.
And the VIP tickets, actually, they do start very low as well. Right now, the VIP tickets, I think, are trading at $1,400. So try and get over to Blockchain Futurist. It's going to be at the Hard Rock Hotel, November 21st, 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. And book your hotel early too, because it is Florida, South Florida. So reach out to me if you can. My WhatsApp is 376-1249. And again, I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me on Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Bahamas website.
Awesome. So once again, we'd like to thank our audience for sticking with us and, just enjoying the great information that was put out. So we'd just like to thank you once again, and we'll see you later. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.